with kidney disease, there's this narrative that's pushed by transplant centers and dialysis centers that you can have your cake and eat it too. You really can't. Um, Kidney disease, dialysis, especially dialysis, is about sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice a lot. I can't tell you how much. I just want to drink a gallon of water as often as I want, whenever I want. When I first got diagnosed and ended up on dialysis, right? I would look at these brochures and, they made it seem like dialysis was this party. Like it was just this excellent experience. And I would sit in a dialysis chair and I would think to myself, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, where is this magical party that they keep telling me about in these brochures and on these transplant websites, their websites? I just didn't get it. I was like, I'm just waiting for like the fun to start. And then over time, I start to realize that there's no fun. There's no party. Dialysis is sacrifice. You're paying a tremendous toll just to stay alive. And you get professionals that will try to convince you that the toll that you're paying, the price that you're paying to live, to be alive, is not that big a deal. Having kidney disease and being a dialysis patient is like a job that you can't quit, right? They say that because one, they don't understand, and two, when they clock out, they go home, right? And they just wash themselves of all of this until the next day when they clock in and it's time for work, right? They have the luxury of being able to, if they don't like this, if they don't like being technicians or nephrologists or nurses, they can quit and go do something else. And there's no price that comes along with that. If I quit this job, I will die. Like the clouds aren't going to open up and like angels are going to come down to heal my kidney. Like, no, it's not like that. If I stop doing dialysis, right, I'll die. That's the reality of what this is. You sacrifice time and the things that you want to do, and you spend most of your time just doing dialysis and being a kidney patient, right? You're sacrificing your time with your friends and family. You're sacrificing your recreational time. You just sacrifice. Even being on the transplant list, like you're sacrificing your lifetime. Now they'll try to rationalize to you that it's not a waste of time, right? But every year that transplant keeps you on their list and they aren't really incentivized to like try to do anything to help you. And this extends to UNOS too. The longer you're on transplant, waiting for a transplant list, like every year is passing, you're a year older than you were when you started. And then the next thing you know, like for me, the next thing you know, you're thinking that you're listening to all the whispers and the hearsay about how transplant, UNOS and your transplant center prioritize younger patients. And then the next thing you know, you're 40. You're like on the cusp of 40 and you're still waiting for a kidney that they're probably still not going to get you for the next 2 or 3 years. So for O-type blood, which is what I have, the estimated time, and there's been revisions to this, the estimated time for UC Davis is 6.5 years. That's the estimated time. And it's based off of a series of percentages and likelihoods and all that stuff. That's how they determine the time, right? Because O-type blood has the longest wait time of like kidney for transplant. And from my experience, based on my interactions with transplant, it feels as though they're going to make me wait like not only the maximum amount of time, but well exceeding that. Now, they plant this idea out there that, oh, well, you can get a transplant at any time. You can get a transplant at any time. But from all the individuals that I've spoken to, medical professionals that are in this field, they tell you whatever the estimated time is, it's probably going to be exactly that, if not a little bit more. So if your estimated wait time is 6.5 years, that doesn't really sound too promising if you're somebody that like wants to get back on track with your life. It almost feels like they want to break you into this way of thinking. It almost feels like they want to beat you down into this place of gratitude. And the problem when they tell you that you can get a call at any time, the magical, mystical call that I keep hearing about, that everybody seems to be getting, the problem when they say that is that, they put you in this frame of mind that you're always going to be looking at your phone, just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then when another year passes and the call doesn't come, for me, like, that's very discouraging. And then you combine that with the fact that you're doing everything right. You're making all the right decisions. You're making all of the sacrifices. And you get a transplant coordinator that could not care less about whether you live or die, or whether you get a transplant or you don't. If you are a dialysis patient, right, you have kidney disease, or you're waiting for a kidney transplant, you're going to have a lot of individuals around you, whether they mean to or not, that are going to try to marginalize your sacrifice. I'm here to tell you that the sacrifice that you're making to do this, the sacrifice that you're making to live, the sacrifices you're making to get a transplant, they're monumental sacrifices. They're not small stuff. They're not cheap. They're not insignificant. They're major sacrifices, and they should not be downplayed by anybody, especially yourself. As individuals, some of us, especially some of us that have to do this, or that are choosing to do this, we'll try to talk ourselves out of the sacrifices that we're making. Oh, well, it's not that bad. Oh, well, it's not that bad. We have good days and bad days. Like, no, it's a big deal. And anytime you feel awful after you get off a dialysis machine, or you call a transplant coordinator and they tell you that they got nothing for you, there's no developments, nothing's moving forward, that's a big deal.